Hey, what's up everyone? Johnny B here with devslopes.com, and we are about to embark on this journey of creating this chat app. Hope you guys are as excited as I am. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. In this video, we're just going to do some project setup. We're going to import our assets, set up our CocoaPods, take a look at the designs, and figure out the direction that we want to go. All right. So we're going to start out creating our brand new project. So I'm going to open up Xcode. I am currently using the Xcode 9 Beta 2. Beta 2's been out for a couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll be getting a new one pretty soon here. And I'm just going to go to File, New Project. I'm just going to drag this over to my screen here. And we're going to do a single view app is fine. Go to Next. Product name, I'm going to call this Smack. And team is none is fine. Organization is whatever you want to call it. Organization identifier. If you have a website, then they encourage you to use that in DNS, which is the reverse domain name service. So that's com dot whatever your website is, and then so that's that, and then your bundle identifier will be com.johnnyb.smack in my case. All right, so if you don't have a website, that's fine, just put a unique identifier. Language is of course going to be Swift, and we are not using core data or unit tests or UI tests in this project. Okay, so then we can just go ahead and say next. And I'm going to just create this here on the desktop. Make sure that you have create git repository checked, because you should always be using version control, right? All right, so I'm going to say create. And we're just going to set up a few things to get going here. I'll go ahead and put in a team here. Here in the deployment info, we're only going to be using this in portraits, so I'm going to uncheck the landscape left and landscape right, just so we don't have to worry about landscape auto layout and constraints and that kind of stuff. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is actually set up this project with our DevSlopes Bitbucket repo, okay? So I'm not going to be able to show you that, but I will show you how to do it with a test project here in just a second. So I'll be right back, and I'm going to set this up with our Bitbucket repo. Alrighty, so I'm back. I just set the remote repo for this project to our team DevSlopes repository on Bitbucket. But like I said, I am going to show you how to do that for yourself. So here I have an empty brand new repo. So I'm going to show you how to do it for yourself. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a quick little just a test project here. So I'm going to say new project, single view, git project. I'm going to say next, create git repository. Okay, so this is just to show you how to set up your Git repository for the very first time. All right, so I'm going to set a team. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to terminal, and they bump this up here. And then I'm going to cd into your repo for your project. All right, so I'm going to say cd to get to the desktop. I'm going to say ls and then cd, and what did we call this? Git project. So a little tip here: if you start typing in the name of your directory and then press tab, once you get to the point where your directory is unique, it will automatically fill it out. If, for instance, you have a bunch of files that begin with the same word, like I have several folders here when I was creating the Smack app. If I do Smack, you'll see that it will autocorrect up to the point where it becomes ununique. So that you can see that I have Smack, Smack Assets, Smack Alpha, etc. So then from there you need to do a little bit more to get to a unique position. So here, if I do Smack space A and then do, oh, that doesn't work because of the space. If I do Smack dash Smack A and then do it, then I get Smack Alpha. But anyways, that's just a little tip there. So I'm going to come back here and do git project. So now we are inside of the directory for this test project that I just created. And if we do git status, you'll see that we have some changes that we could commit. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m, and I'm going to say starter project. Okay, and then if I do git branch, that will show the branch that we are currently on. All right, so this is a master branch. Now when you create your Git repository when you initialize using Git with your project, you start out with a master branch, and that's just local. All right, so you have a local master branch, but you don't always want to just rely on having things locally. So that's why services like GitHub and Bitbucket exist. You could do all of the Git version control on your own computer and have that be, that's still a good thing to do version control on your own computer. But if you want to share or you want to collaborate, or just for security reasons, if your computer crashes, and you could still have all of your code up on an online repository. All right, so that's what we're going to do here. So we are currently in our directory. We know we have a master branch, and it's got all of its changes up to date and everything. So if you say git status, it'll say nothing to commit, working tree clean. So we are ready to upload our local master branch to our online repo. And that's what I did with the DevSlopes one, but I'm going to show you how to do that here as well. So I'm going to come back here to Bitbucket, and I just created a throwaway project repo here. And it says here, get started with command line. So step one is to switch to your repositories directory, which we have just done. And step two is to to connect your existing repository to Bitbucket. Okay, so that's called adding an origin. Okay, so the remote is the Bitbucket part, and then the origin is this repo. So I'm going to say git remote add origin, and then they give us right here the URL that we're going to use for this particular repo. So I'm going to jump back into terminal, and I'm going to add that. All right, so now we should have, so that makes the connection between our local and our online repo here. So then I can actually push up our master branch to our online repo. So I'm going to say git push -u origin. So this is saying push to origin, and then you say which branch you want to push. So we're going to push our master branch, git push -u origin master. And then it's going to ask you to put in, if you've set this up with SSH, it'll ask you for your password. So you just enter that. You won't see any dots or anything show up. So don't worry if you're not seeing any of that. Just enter it in like normal, then press enter. All right, it says branch master was set up to track remote branch master from origin. So if we come back over here and we do a refresh, then you'll see that we have successfully added it. We have one branch here. There isn't a README yet, so you could create a README. But if we come over here to our master branch, we can click on that, and you'll see here you can look at your source code. We just have, there's not a whole lot because this is just a dummy project. You can see your commits and the what was added and what was changed. All right, so yeah, just kind of a little sidetrack to show you how to set up your own online repositories and link them up with your local Git projects. Okay, so hope that was a good little sidetrack for you guys. So I'm going to close out that repo, and then I'm also going to close out this test project, and we will continue on with our Smack app. Okay, all right, so we got our project set up, opened up. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at our assets. Okay, so with this section, you should get a pretty big folder of assets called Smack assets, and here inside of it we have the app icons, we have the mockups, we have a couple of supporting files in the form of our SW reveal view controller files, and we have our actual Xcode assets. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our mockups first. So I'm just going to, and these are just some screenshots, so I'm just going to open them all up and we'll take a look at them and talk about it. All right, so you saw how it works in the last video. So this is just kind of look through the screenshots and kind of talk about what we're going to be looking at. So we're going to be working with two main view controllers for most of the app, which is going to be the chat window, which you see right here, and then the other one is the channels and the menu window. Okay, so in the chat we're going to have a table view. We're gonna have a label down here so that you can enter messages. If we click here, it's going to open up the side menu where we have a list of the channels as well as some profile info. We can log in using email and password. We are able to create accounts, and when we create an account, you have the option of creating it with an avatar with a background color as well. We have a screen that will show the profile info and also let you log out. And then we have a screen that we can use to create channels, all right? And then this kind of just shows what it looks like when you're actually typing. We have a custom button that will let us send the messages. All right, so take a look at these, look through these, and this will help you orient yourself into what it is exactly that we're going to be working on throughout these videos, okay? All right, so that looks good. Next thing I want to do is actually import our Xcode assets. So I'm going to come over here and back into our project, click on the assets folder, and then come back in here, Xcode assets, and go ahead and just select all of these and drag them right into here. All right, that looks good. So now we have all of our assets that we're going to be using throughout the project imported. And I just want to make a quick note of the naming of our avatars. So they are named dark and then an integer from 0 to 27. So there are in total 28, and they are in dark and light formats, okay? And so we named them dark 0 through 28 and light 0 through 28 on purpose because we'll be able to use that naming convention to add them to our collection view very easily, all right? So the next thing that we're going to do is talk about our CocoaPods that we're going to be using. All right, so there are two different ways that we can initiate or add our CocoaPods. There's using the old school way with Terminal and CocoaPods, and then but CocoaPods actually just recently released a CocoaPods app that you can get at cocoapods.org. Let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Let's see here. Go to cocoapods.org and then go to app, and you can download the CocoaPods app. It's actually pretty nice and makes it really easy to quickly add CocoaPods. So I'm going to actually show you how to do it with this app. Okay, so go ahead and download that, and then once you got it, go to just open it up, CocoaPods right here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to come up here to File, New Pod File from Xcode Project. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to our desktop and go to our folder and select the Xcode project. So if you're not familiar with CocoaPods, what they are is kind of a plugin, basically. What it does is it's a pre-compiled or a pre-configured library of code that does a specific thing usually that you can add into your project and take advantage of all of that code that has been written and tested and done by someone else. Now, that's being said, you do want to be careful about how many and the quality of the CocoaPods that you add to your project. Some of them are not super well maintained. Some of them, aren't trustworthy. So just make sure that you're getting CocoaPods that are, have good ratings, look like they are well maintained, etc. We're going to be using 3 in this project, and they're all very well maintained and documented. Okay. So I'm going to click on open here. And the 3 CocoaPods that we're going to be using is AlamoFire, SwiftlyJSON, and Socket.io. Okay. So what do each of those do? AlamoFire is a library built on top of URL session. That makes it a lot easier to work with web requests, doing things like downloading data, posting data to websites, etc. The next one is SwiftlyJSON, which really makes it nice and easy to work with JSON data. And then the last is the Socket.io framework that we're going to be using to make our app work in real time. Okay, so that simplifies working with WebSockets and having an open line of communication between our app, the client, and our API on the web server side. Okay, so if you just do pod, and then CocoaPods tries to help you out if you do and then if you do Alamo Fire, it tries to autocomplete for you. I find it's just easier to type it in and then go back and put the colon, or what is that? Apostrophe. That's what it is, an apostrophe. Oh my goodness. All right, so back to pages, or it's back to CocoaPods. So the next one is pod, and that's going to be Swifty JSON. Oops, those are capital JSONs. And then put your apostrophe. And then we're going to do, the last one's a little bit more wordy, socket.io-client-swift. Okay. All right, and that's all you got to do. Then you just press install. We'll go ahead and close this project, because from now on, after you install CocoaPods, you will use the workspace. So go ahead and open back up your folder and then open the workspace. So from now on, we're going to always be working in this workspace here. All right, so next thing that we're going to do is talk a little bit about Xcode 9 and Swift 4 and how that works with some of these other libraries. So in the dark days of the Swift 2 to Swift 3 migration and Xcode 8 beta, it was a nightmare because the changes that they made going to Swift 3 were so drastic and huge that everything broke. Lots of CocoaPods, lots of libraries, everything broke, and so there was this huge scramble to try and get things in line with Swift 3, but they continued to make breaking changes all through the beta period. And so it was a really hard time to be teaching and to be using these types of things. Fortunately, as you probably know, since you're taking this course, Xcode 9 and Swift 4 just came out, but they made this a lot easier to have this migration, because what they've done is they allowed to have your working project be in Swift 4, but your targets, for instance, your CocoaPods, they can be in Swift 3.2. And so these CocoaPods that we just used, they are in Swift 3.2. If you're taking this course well into the future, and we'll make an update video, these CocoaPods might have migrated to Swift 4 by then. But right now, they make it really nice to be able to have your project in Swift 4, but use Swift 3.2 for your CocoaPods and other targets, and it works seamlessly. It works perfectly. All right. So, but we do need to specify which language we want Xcode to use. All right. So here in Smack, this is our current project, which we want to be coding in Swift 4. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Build Settings, and way down here at the bottom, where it says Swift Compiler Language, it's already set to Swift 4. Okay, so that's good. But our pods, so come over here and click on Pods, and then under Targets, we have Alamo Fire, but we want our pods to be working with Swift 3.2. All right, so come down here to Swift Language Version and change that to Swift 3.2 for Alamo Fire, socket.io, and Swifty JSON. All right, so now when I build this, fingers crossed, this should compile just fine and should build just fine. All right, there we go, build succeeded. So that's all working well. The last thing that we're going to do and get configured here in this setup video is we are going to add the SW reveal files that we are going to need to make that awesome slide out menu. All right, so go ahead and open up a browser and search for SW reveal. Drag this over here. And the top result should be the GitHub of John Luch. Sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly. But yeah, all you got to do is go to clone or download, or alternately, inside of the assets that we have provided you, there is a folder for SW Reveal, and the 2 files that you need are also right here. But if you want to get them from the GitHub repository, just do clone download and download the zip. And then, let's see here, open up the folder. All right, so once you got it open, let's jump back into Xcode and then back to Finder. And what we're gonna do, actually, let me create a new group real quick. So I'm gonna create a new group called supporting files, where we're going to add these files. Okay, so if you downloaded it, then you're going to come here to SW Reveal View Controller and open that up, and you're going to grab these 2 files and you're going to drag them into your Xcode project here under supporting files, and then we're going to say copy items if needed, add to targets, and say finish. And then it's going to pop up and say, would you like to configure an Objective-C bridging header? So this is very important. You want to create a bridging header, so click on create bridging header. Okay, so what this does is the bridging header allows Xcode to seamlessly work Swift code and Objective-C code in the same project, okay? But one more thing that we need to do to allow that to work is in our bridging header here, we are going to do an import, so do pound or hashtag import, and then you're going to say quotes, I'm going to say SW reveal view controller .h. And what this does is this just lets us get access to the methods and functions that that are programmed in the Objective-C files. All right, so I'm going to save that, and let's do one more test to build this, make sure everything is looking good. And we have a successful build. We got a bunch of warnings here because the SW Reveal controller is not with Swift 4, it's Objective-C, so it's asking us, hey, do you want to convert this to Swift 4? No, we don't. So I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to say convert later, and I'm going to uncheck the remind me, convert later. Alrighty. So we are all set up. We have added our assets. We have set up our Bitbucket repo. We have added our CocoaPods, set the Swift version, added our SW Reveal files. So we are good to go to jump into our next lesson. And at the end of each lesson, hopefully I remember, I'm going to commit our changes. And this is just to get you guys into the practice of constantly using version control. Okay, so we really encourage you to be using version control. And so I'm going to jump out of our, this was our starter project. So I'm going to, let me clean this. We're going to go to our desktop and then cd into smack. And if you do git status, you'll see what we've changed. You can see here we added a bridging header, a whole bunch of pod file stuff. So I'm going to say git add dot git commit dash m, and I'm going to say end of lesson 1. Okay, so what does git add dot do? Add adds all of the changes and any new files that we have created or added, and the period just says add it all. And then committing is kind of like saving those changes, and the dash m is just a message to make it easier for if you're going back through your different commits that you've made, you can easily figure out which one you want to rewind back to, all right? And so just a couple more words on the importance of version control. You know, why do we do it? It's because it's for safety. You know, sometimes you'll be working on a project and you've made a whole bunch of changes and everything's looking good, but then you do something that breaks everything and you can't figure out what went wrong. And so now your project is just screwed. So if you haven't been doing frequent commits and using version control, you might be totally out of luck with that project. You might have to start completely over. But if you've been using version control like a good little programmer, then you can just get rid of some of those changes and rewind to a working commit that you know is actually working well. All right, and so right now we're on master, and just a couple more words. You shouldn't actually be working your development changes in master. You should create a new branch off of master called develop. And then off of develop, you should actually be creating new branches for each new feature that you're implementing. This way you're protecting your master branch and you're protecting your develop branch. And so once you make a whole bunch of changes, then you'll have a code review and you'll merge that into develop. And eventually when you're ready to make like a new release on your app, then you'll merge all of those changes from develop into master and you'll release your app off of that. All right, so just a little bit of some reasons for why we use version control and why it's so important. Okay, so hope you guys are ready for the next video and getting working on this. All right, so I'll see you then.